Elisabeth is 5th generation in the estate of Pêche-Menel, leading estate in St Chinian. And she's also responsible for communications for the syndicat of St Chinian. So no better person to tell us all about St Chinian. And then she's with Luc David, who is a geologist who has studied the geology of St Chinian in particular. St Chinian is one of the more complicated appellations of the Languedoc because it's theoretically it's split in two. You've got schist on one side of the Venaisons River and clay and limestone on the other side. But in fact, it's more complicated than that, as I'm sure Luc will tell us. So I will hand you over to, I don't know which of you is talking first, Luc or Liz. Allez-y.
Hello, dear circle of wine writers and friends. It's an honor and a heavy responsibility for me to present our St Chinian appellation to you today. And very many thanks for you, Rosemary George, for your introduction. As my English is not perfect, please be indulgent with me. The first part of this presentation will focus on 3 points: the geographical location, the appellation, and its economy. I will then hand over to Luc David, geologist, who will explain the incredible geology that makes up our landscapes and terroirs. I'll be back after that to talk to you a more intimate way about my appellation. First, the St Chinian appellation is one of the leading appellations of the Languedoc in the south of France. The area of St Chinian, 20 villages, 2 geological zones, schist on the north, limestone to the south. Vineyard altitude different between 100 and 400 meters. Obtained VDQS delimited wine of superior quality status in 1951. AOP St Chinian red and rosé in 1982. And AOP white in 2004, along with its 2 designated appellations, St Chinian Berlou and St Chinian Roquebrun here. Then, here is the chaînon de St Chinian. It's what you see behind me, the chaînon de St Chinian, set like an island between the Espinouse and the Caroux mountains and the land of Béziers, bordering the Mediterranean Sea. You can see other appellations around St Chinian, Minervois on the left, Faugère on the right, then Terrasse du Larzac, Picpoul de Pinet, Pic Saint-Loup, close to Montpellier, and Lac Lap, close to Narbonne. On this map, you can see the incredible diversity of the appellation. Vineyards, the geological mayhem, and very diverse altitude, all surrounded by plants, trees, scrublands, and what we call garrigue, the south, and maquis to the north, our wild biodiversity. Let's come back to the St Chinian appellation map, which shows 2 distinct zones, the schist to the north and limestone to the south, dividing between 8 cooperatives within the appellation with 234 members and 86 private sellers. Vineyard area in production to 3,000 hectares, 67% of which is limestone and 37% schist. 1,100 hectares for private seller and 1,900 hectare cooperative. Classified area OP St Chinian Berlou, 250 hectares over 5 villages. Yeah. Berlou, Cessenon, Prades-sur-Vernazobre, Roquebrun, Vieux-Sang. Classified area of AOP Roquebrun, 400 hectares over 4 villages, Roquebrun, Cessenon, Vieux-Sang, et Saint-Nazaire. Yeah. For a total average volume of 100,000 hectares, of which 1,040 hectares from Berlou and 5,900 hectares from Roquebrun. And the appellation: 15% red wines, 15% rosé, and 5% whites. It's okay for you?
Yes, thank you.
Now, when we talk of appellation, we talk about a set of rules and a decrease that fixes them. The rule of red wine and rosé, great variety, main grain varieties: Syrah, Grenache, Mourvèdre, and Les Donneurs Pelutes. Syrah and all Mourvèdre, 20% minimum. Grenache and all Les Donneurs Pelutes, 20% minimum. Together, 70% minimum. Secondary grape varieties: Carignan and Cinsault. Carignan and all Cinsault, 20% maximum of the vine stock. Rules for blending the OP St Chinian red and rosé wines: blend of at least 2 grape varieties, one of which is the main variety. The main grape varieties must be in the majority. Berlou and Roquebrun. Alors, grape variety rules for St Chinian white wines. Main grape variety, Grenache Blanc, obligatory. 20% minimum and 70% maximum. Roussanne, Marsanne, Rolle, white Vermentino, each must be less than or equal to 70%. Secondary grape variety Carignan Blanc, Clairette, Viognier, Bourboulin, and Macabeu must be less than or equal to 10% of vine stock. And the blending white wine, a blend of at least 2 grape variety, of which Grenache Blanc, and the main variety must be in the majority. Pour les blancs, the white wines. Roquebrun, St Chinian Berlou and St Chinian Roquebrun. The grape variety rules for the St Chinian Berlou communal appellation. Main grape varieties Syrah, Grenache, and Mourvèdre, no Cinsault. The complementary grape variety Carignan is compulsory, greater than or equal to 30%. Syrah and Grenache each greater than or equal to 20%. Together greater than or equal to 60%. The Brendel rules: main grape variety greater than or equal to 40%, and Carignan must be represent 10%. The grape variety rules for St Chinian Roquebrun communal appellation: main grape varieties Grenache and Syrah. Compulsory: Syrah greater than or equal to 25%, and Grenache greater than or equal to 20%. Accessory grape varieties and unaccessory grape variety is not obligatory. Mourvèdre and Carignan, the Mourvèdre must be less than 30%. The Syrah, Grenache, and Mourvèdre grapes must represent at least 70% of the total vine stock. Blending rules, 2 main grape varieties, and they must be in the majority. Then production rules is different. Authorized yields 45 hectoliter per hectare for red and wine, 50 hectoliters by hectare for rosé, and 40 hectoliters by hectare for Berlou and Roquebrun. The average real yield around 40 hectoliter by hectare. Short pruning, manual and mechanical harvesting. Manual harvesting obligatory for Berlou and Roquebrun. Vinification aging in the appellation area is in neighboring communes. A St Chinian wine is declared from the 4th leaf, planting before 21 of July, Berlou from the 10th leaf, and Roquebrun 5th leaf for Syrah, Grenache, and Mourvèdre, and 10th leaf for Carignan. Minimum 12 degrees, 3 to 4 grams max residual sugar. Sales can start on the 15th January for the reds, 1st of December for whites and rosé following the harvest. Berlou, Roquebrun, 1st December of the following year. Now, the economy, you can see in 2018, 84% of Yulum were sold in France and 16% on export. Then overview of sales. We have direct sales, 28%, on trade, 28%, off trade, 28%, export, 17%. The main export country in the same year, the first, Royaume-Uni, UK, China, Belgium, Canada, Deutschland, Germany, United States, Switzerland, Netherlands, Japan. Then the time has come for Luc David to reveal the reasons of the duality of our terroir, and see you afterwards. J'arrête de partager, hop, et voilà.
Thank you, Elisabeth. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to meet you. My name is Luc David. I'm a retired geologist, and I studied many terroirs in Languedoc, and especially the St Chinian terroir. First, excuse me for my bad English. First of all, I will speak about the geological history of this area. And in the second part, I will speak about zonage. Zonage I did on terroirs of St Chinian, based on usual criteria, but also on geological, geomorphological criteria, and also on biodiversity. So let's talk about geological history. Imagine about 460 million years ago, the sea was covering all the area.
What?
Sorry.
What do we want?
Je veux passer mes diapos. I'm sorry. Technical problem.
Je crois que ça marchait avec ça.
So imagine about 460 million years ago, the sea was covering all the area, and in this sea you can find trilobites. It was the ancestor of crabs and crayfish, floating and swimming in the sea. On the seafloor, a thick deposit of clay sediment, with also sometimes sand beds. About 300 million years ago, mountains appear in Europe, from east to west of Europe, extended from Russia in Mont Ural to France, Germany, France, the south of England, and also in America, in the Appellation. At this time, the American plate was close to Europe. It was holy time. Inside the mountains, the temperature and the pressure transformed the clay to what we call schist. The clay loses water and became layers. We found fossils of trilobites inside the schist nowadays. The clay became schist and the sand became sandstone or hard schist. You can see on the diagram the folding area. Imagine a cover on the bed, sliding, folding, and in fact is upside down. You can see on this diagram what's happened. So all the area of St Chinian on the northbound of the schist zone is upside down. Non, c'est pas ça.
C'est à l'autre sens.
Merci.
Il faut descendre. Voilà.
Okay. Here's a geological map. When you see colors, each color matches to a age of stone. You can see the north part of schist area and the south part clay limestone area. Here is a cross section, geological section, showing on the left thick deposits of clay became schist zone, and then in the south the clay limestone zone, which has different history. About 50 million years ago, appears a mountain called Pyrenees. And at this time, the rocks have been folded, thrust up here. You can see thrust here. And this is what we call the limestone area. Here we can see a cross section I did on field. That's what it looked like. And this part matches to this one. So let's speak about schist area. On field, we can find two kinds of schist. On the right slide, you can see friable schist with layers, thin layers. That's the ancient clay. On the left slide, you can see hard schist. It was the ancient sand with thicker layers. So I tried to do a zonage of different terroirs in the schist part and in the limestone part. In the schist part, you can see 4 different zones. First of all, Roquebrun, Berlou, what I call North St Chinian, and Babou-Bouldou. I found 2 types of terroir based, as I said, on usual criteria, but also on geomorphological criteria. For instance, Berlou, here, you can find hard schist on the tops of hills. Usually, the hard schist are hard and harder to erosion, and the friable schist are very eroded. And you can find the hard schist on the top of the hills and the friable schist in the bottom. Usually, the plots are from the top to the slide of the slope to the bottom of the slopes. And my logic is a geomorphological logic, horizontal. So we have a logic of on the horizontal top of the hills, where you can find only hard schist with siliceous soil, sandy soils, stony soils, dry soils. And in the bottom of the slope, you have friable schist with water, thick soils, clay soils. So they are very, very different. So you can see on this photograph the plots at the top of the hill on hard schist. Another example is Babou-Bouldou, where you can find 2 types of terroir. One of schist terroir is in the valleys, very narrow valleys, surrounded by what Elizabeth called maquis. That's what it looks like. The maquis is small trees, special plants on siliceous soils. acid soils. And there is an interaction between the surrounded trees and plants with the vineyard. For instance, we saw that some bats, some kind of bats can eat butterflies called eudemies at twilight time, and they can eat the butterfly which is a danger for the grapes. This plot is nice and is an old one. It's a very old one, more than 100 years plot on the slope of friable schist with, as you see, low hills with woods in the top of the slopes. Here is Cistus ladaniferus, Cyste ladanifère in French, which is a special plant we can find on siliceous soils and especially in St Chinian. You cannot find this plant in another place. So let's talk about the south part on clay limestone. Limestone is hard rock with many faults and what we call diaclasis, where the water runs in the bottom easily. So the soils are very, very thin and dry. You can see the different zones are found on the limestone part. For instance, you can see the folding areas is drawing bars, limestone bars, and very narrow valleys. You can see here. You can find also large valleys where you can find the plots on the top of the slopes. You know, the bottom of the slopes are not in AOP. And you can find also plains with small woods in the middle. Wide plains with woods in the middle. Sorry, I come back. I forgot one terroir, an interesting terroir, I think. It's on limestone and dolomite. It's a dry terroir on white stones. And it's a zone with a lot of walls, stony walls, ancient culture, a nice terroir. So you can see on these photographs the narrow valleys surrounded by what Elisabeth called garrigue. The garrigue is trees and plants on limestone soil, basic soil, alkaline. Here, the plots on the top of the slopes, just under the cliffs of limestones. And here is the plots, white plains with woods, small woods in the middle. In this kind of landscape, you can find eagles, two kinds of eagles. This one is called circaète. And these birds need to have open spaces to hunt. But it's very important for this kind of bird to have large wide spaces. And here is the last terroir I found in the limestone part. These terroirs are on limestones, on the rocks. There is no soil. It's the rocks with stony rocks and white rocks. It's very different when you have white rocks or when you have dark rocks. In the schist area, you have dark soils that keep the light and keep the heat of the day and give it back in the night. On this kind of soils, white soils, the light and the heat is reflected in the day. This kind of terroir is important also for biodiversity, because the walls, the stony walls of stony cabins can offer shelters to reptiles, for instance. So thank you for your attention. It's back to Elizabeth. Up to you.
Thank you.
Merci, Luc. And me again. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, sorry. Then the history of the St Chinian appellation is a complex one, where the St Chinian appellation, this singular being for the women and men who live and work here and who create the wines that it embodies the identity of our St Chinian appellation. The AOP St Chinian, this singular being, why? Because it is alive, personal, and unique. The duality of the two terrors, you know, black and white, as said Luc, schist on left, and calcaire, limestone on the right. You know the difference. Diverse altitudes and expositions, altitude between 100 and 400, and around and exposition southeast. You can see here the south here, north, east, west, and St Chinian is here. Then unique biodiversity that can be compared to an island. The women and men now in this living world that is our St Chinian appellation, living because of our environment, rich in fauna and flora, where the subsoils are full of treasures, and also because of the women and men who live and work here, who guarantee its authenticity and integrity. Each wine grower is a creator of his or her own wine. He or she chooses the winemaking process. He or she chooses when it's the right time to harvest. He or she has worked all year around making organic or no organic choices. Before all this, he or she choose which grape variety, when with which sort. He or she choose the grape varieties. He or she had chosen which plots should be planted. And even before all this, he or she had no say in the matter. Nature expressed herself through the soils, our terroirs, the symphony that she plays throughout the season and vintages. In the St Chinian appellation, besides the scrubland and the maquis, besides the limestones and schists, nature went wide and wrote her symphony for us that we unveil for you today. The wines. What we know, the role of grape variety and what the wine growers choose to do with them. What we suspect, the influence of the subsoil and surrounding nature, the influence of light absorption or reflection depending on the ground, albedo phenomenon, the preservation of plant and mineral bath by growing the right plants in the designated natural environment. What remains to be discovered now? The making of the excellent wines of the two major geological zones that make up our appellation, and God knows there are many. The racing selection of our ambassador wines, known as the Virtuose, has chosen 20 wines to represent and promote our appellation throughout 2021. And the discovery of new terroir for our wines. Two challenges. And conclusion, St Chinian asserts its identity. I hope our overview of the St Chinian appellation has given you the desire to come and visit us, to come and experience the diversity and uniqueness of our fauna and flora, to come and meet the wine growers and taste our wines. I'm sincere in my invitation. Many thanks for listening to me. Bye.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I think by looking at the chat, yours and Luc's presentation has solicited a number of questions. And one of the members, Heather Doherty, has a couple of questions. So I've asked her if she'd like to ask you them herself, as she has a few questions for you before we move on to the others. Okay, Heather?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Elizabeth.
Oui.
I was really fascinated with your presentation, but I do have some questions that I hope you can answer. So you talked about the communal appellation of Roquebrun and Berlou, and it seemed like the village of Roquebrun appeared in both of those communal appellations, the village of Roquebrun itself. So can people in that village, can they have a choice of where their wines go? Can they make them as AOP, Roquebrun or Berlou?
In the same village, like Vieux-Saint or Roquebrun or Berlou, where the area is delimited. And in the same village, we have plots of Roquebrun appellation and plots of Berlou appellation, because the plots are éloignés l'un des autres, par village.
Far away.
Far away. The plots are far away far away. That it's and the village Berlou is here, Roquebrun is here, and the plots are. J'ai répondu là, oui. Bon.
Oui. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. And Berlou as Carignan, the first one of the first great varieties, and no, and Roquebrun is Syrah. It's a different,
Okay.
very different.
And because obviously you talk about the duality of the appellation between the schist and the limestone, and that's part of the personality of St Chinian. But so what is the argument for St Chinian to be one appellation if there are such distinct differences between the schist terroir and the limestone terroir? What makes St Chinian one whole?
Les altitudes, la finesse, l'altitude, la finesse, l'acidité.
Yes. That's where I show you. St Chinian is island. You know, the mountains and the soil, vraiment le relief.
The contours.
It's a unity it's a unity for St Chinian. You know, the other appellation Fougères and Minervois are different, and we are an ensemble. Comment on dit un ensemble? An entity. Yes, we are an entity. North, schist, calcaire, limestone on south. I think. Yes, we have elegant wines, fine wines. And yes, it's difficult to determine which wine is this wine and which wine is limestone wine. Very difficult, and some wines are blend of the two zones.
Mm-hmm.
No?
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Heather.
Yes. At the beginning. At the beginning, it's a history of men and women who chose to work together, schist and limestone. It's a very human history, St Chinian, at the beginning and now.
As a follow-on from that, I think Richard Lane wanted to know how he'd like to hear how the different soils influence the terroir expression in St Chinian wines, such as the red, how it might compare with red from a neighbouring appellation such as Minervois or Fougères.
Il faut me le redire parce que j'ai pas tout compris. Alors, dans quel contexte les sols vont apporter une différence entre St Chinian comparé à Minervois et Fougères? Dans quelle mesure c'est le sol qui...
Sarah, maybe you can...
I think, je pense que Luc peut répondre. I think Luc is not the same terroir. You know, Fougères is schist, okay, not the same schist of St Chinian. Minervois is limestone, not the same limestone of St Chinian, you know, not the same wine. And the entity of St Chinian give an identity of the wines, of all the wines. And so St Chinian, it's, je sais pas si je m'exprime bien.
Remets ça.
One minute, please. C'est sur le premier slide. Hein, le premier slide.
Sachez que aussi dire que Sachez qu'on a croisé les terroirs.
Uh-huh.
Qui est justement, comme je disais, avec les terrains, c'est vrai qu'ils ne sont pas du tout les mêmes.
Oui, pardon? Là, c'est sur son truc derrière.
Je pourrais rajouter des
Oui,
critères
oui,
morphologiques,
oui,
si tu veux,
oui,
ça
oui.
peut être- oui,
Oui, oui, mais voilà, c'est ça
On
que
a
je
parlé
voudrais.
avec, oui.
Je vais remettre la.
Exactement.
Tu étais là. Voilà, c'est celui-là.
oui.
Non, il n'y était plus. Voilà, c'était bon. Luc,
Attends, ne bouge pas. Je vais venir derrière toi, là, comme le fantôme.
c'était celle-là, hein?
Ouais.
Here I am.
Voilà.
I come like a ghost. So, the different zonage of St Chinian are not based only on soils or usual criteria, but also on landscapes and geomorphological criteria. And for instance, if you talk about limestone soils, it's very different. For instance, in Minervois, the stones are not so different, but the geomorphological context is very different. In Minervois, you have a plateau with a very low slope, you know. In St Chinian, it's a folded area. It's very different in the landscapes. In Faugère, you talk about Faugère. Faugère, it's not possible to make a zonage as St Chinian in the schist part, because in St Chinian we have those plots on the top of slopes, those in the narrow valleys. You can't have this in other terroirs. So it's not only soil, only the rocks. The rocks can be the same. You can have in your hand a piece of limestone. You can say this, it's coming from Minervois, it's coming from St Chinian. But in the landscape, there is a large difference. Did my answer agree?
Yes, I think so. I think what people are asking now is what different wines come from these different terroirs. So you have the schist and the limestone. So what is the difference between the wines that come from these two, the different terroirs, the different wines?
Quelles sont les différences des vins entre les différents terroirs? You do come in St Chinian and you do taste. You do try wines and you will see. Est-ce qu'il y a une...
Tu veux parler? Tu veux dire que sur quel cas il y a plus d'acidité, de fruits rouges, de tanins?
Il faut que je rentre dans le détail, là. Putain, c'est plus difficile pour moi. And the difference between wine schist and wine limestone, the wine limestone wines is more acidity, but I think Gaylord, it's come, c'est à ma place. C'est mieux. On a dit qu'on ne va pas dans le détail là-dessus, parce que justement, on allait se faire piéger.
Hello, everybody. It's a hard question because sometimes we can say something, but it's not true, because we can say limestone, it's very fruity, red fruits with a lot of acidity and very dry, and with a lot of tannins, and you can keep for a long time. And you can say also on schist area, you can find very smooth wines, smoky wines with low tannins and very easy to drink young. But it's too easy to speak like this, because when you make a testing like virtuosos, we can see it's not so easy to speak like this, because sometimes you can't recognize the difference between schist and calcaire. Depends of the altitude, and there is a lot of many things to comment on peut dire. So it's not so easy, and now we have more questions like answers. It's not, I can say something like this like now, but it's not true, because every wine is very different and it's not so easy to explain. And now we try to make a lot of work with Luc David, with a lot of testing to understand this terroir, but it's very complex. It's not easy to say on only one sentence.
sometimes the wine grower is going to vinify it.
Yeah. Because sometimes also historically on the north of St Chinian area, a lot of cellars make a carbonic maceration also. And this kind of technique give a kind of wine, very smooth and easy to drink. And now I have also wine grower working on the high side on schist area, and they make wines on schist, but this wine there are a lot of acidity inside, and it's completely strange and new to discover these new wines, and it's not so easy. St Chinian, it's complex.
Okay, so it's not an easy difference then, differentiation between the
yes,
two.
Normally we say schist is very smooth, easy to drink, smoky, and limestone it's more tannins, more structure, more acidity, but sometimes not true.
Okay, and Rosemary asked, is there any Grenache Gris in the AC, and how much is organic and how much organic viticulture?
Now it's around 30% of wine growers on organic. And we have also the oldest organic wine grower from Hérault, it's Soulier. It's more than 50 years making organic wines. Donc it's very old area for organic wines, yeah. Because we have a very low yield. It's very dry weather with a lot of tramontane, like it's dry weather. It's more easy to make organic wines. Grenache Gris. The gray Grenache, yeah. Now we are trying to put inside the house. We are working on it. I think in few on 1 year or 2 years we can put Grenache Gris because people like a lot. Yes, very. It's wonderful grape. Yeah. But for now, no. It's only white Grenache. Huh? There is no gray Grenache.
Some of our guests today just asked, and your name? Who are you?
My name is Gaylord. I work for Syndicat.
Okay.
From St Chinian.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Does anybody else have any other questions? Richard was saying, do most producers also create IGP and Vin de France wines for variety and ease of marketing?
Yes, like everywhere in Languedoc, a winery make AOC, IGP, Vin de France, depends what you want to do, depend of your la loi, the law. When the people want to make a single grape variety, you need to go out from AOC because it's always a blend, St Chinian.
Oui, mais est-ce qu'un vigneron va faire St Chinian et Vin de France?
Oui, yeah. A lot of people make different wine. Yeah, you can do everything. Yeah.
Going back to Elizabeth, we wonder whether she could let some of us know about the terroir of her estate.
Tu peux expliquer un peu ton terroir? Pêche-Minel. Pêche-Minel is a limestone terroir. We have a lot of stone, a lot, and small culture per hectare, very small, and we have the estate is about 55 hectares, and we have 20 hectares in the middle of the garrigue. And the plots are entourés, surrounded by garrigue, you know, the vegetable, the aroma of rosemary, thyme, cyst, pines, lavenders, oak, Kermès oak. You know what is Kermès? No. C'est small chêne, small oak, and we have a lot of thyme. Yes, and le racinaire qui colonise là, comme on dit. Les racines, tu sais, qui colonisent.
De quoi tu parles, du chêne Kermès?
Ouais, non, mais pour de tous ces all the nature um,
roots.
uh,
The roots.
the roots and the roots of rosemary, lavender, cease, and the roots of vine se marient quoi.
They intermingle. Bon, intermingle.
Intermingle, c'est Sarah. You know what is voilà. You know, and and also the vine, the grape variety, it's very important for spicy wine like Mourvèdre. And I think in Pêche-Ménel we have Mourvèdre, Syrah, Carignan. I love Carignan and I love Mourvèdre. And we have Cinsault also. And for white wines, we have Grenache Blanc and Dolomites. It's planted in Dolomites. And we have Roland, white Vermentino, a little bit Viognier and Roussanne. We have on altitudes, and we turn about 360 degrees, you know. Voilà. We saw plains, Narbonne plains, Béziers plains, and Caroux and Espinouse. And the domain is Pêche, it's a top of hill, and we have Roman villa. You know what is a Roman villa?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And dolmen, you know what is sépulture, les sépultures les dolmens là. Dolmen. And we have voilà. And the construction, le bâti on stones. And what you have, I work with my sister, Marie-Françoise, from 1989. And voilà. Do you have any question?
Have you been working with any different grape varieties because of climate change?
Le changement de climat.
Oh, yes. It's a problem, but the roots of the vine plonge profondément.
Deep.
You know, that deep, you know, the depth, voilà. On va voir.
On peut dire que les vieilles vignes supportent bien la
Oui, c'est ça.
sécheresse.
Carignan,
the old vines.
the old vines like Carignan, support.
Dry weather.
Oui, parce que leurs racines sont
Oui.
profondes.
Yes, de profondes, et puis elles sont adaptées.
They're adapted and their
They
roots go
are
really deep.
very adapted of the climate and the
So
soils.
Okay.
Et
So
bon,
notwithstanding the climate change.
C'est la Syrah qui souffre plus.
Yes, the Syrah.
yes, la Syrah is more difficult for the Syrah et surtout dans les schistes. Encore en calcaire, c'est bon. Ouais, la Syrah.
Okay.
Le Mourvèdre.
Mais le secret, c'est les vieilles vignes.
Voilà, c'est ça, c'est the roots.
They go very deep.
Voilà, deep,
The
very,
old
very deep.
vines.
So you haven't had to work with
And
any
the political, when we plant, the political is laisser les racines plonger. Is
to let the let the roots
to
go
permettre,
deep.
to enable. To enable?
Enable.
And to enable the roots to voilà.
Okay, thank you.
Quand il fait très chaud, ces vignes profondes donnent des vins très fins.
Oui.
Ah.
Oui. With weather, hot weather, it's good for the elegant and fineness of wine, you know.
Pour ces vieilles vignes.
Ouais, for the old wines, old vines. Do you understand what?
Yes, we do. Yes. That's super. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and to Luke. I'd just like to hand over to Rosemary, who'd like to say thank you to you all for today.
I think talking about geology, I've always found that even in English is very challenging and taxing. So really a big thank you for managing to talk to us here in a foreign language about geology. You know, so thank you to Elisabeth and to Luke and also to Gaylord. And I think picking up that question about how do you taste the different geological differences in the wine, I've actually found from personal experience that a lot depends on what the wine grower actually does. And so, you know, the differences between geology can actually get quite blurred. So I think that's all part of the charm of St Chinian. So you can see Elisabeth and Luke have had a wonderful backdrop of a vineyard. So I would encourage you to go and visit when we can finally travel. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you everybody else for joining today.